Hello, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I hope you're all having a lovely morning. You'll see I've got on the screen there starting soon, just while we let people come in, obviously. But just want to check everyone can hear me. So if you can, please just put a message in the chat and maybe let us know whereabouts you're joining us from. It'd be really good to see who we've got on the session today. So if you can hear us, just let us know whereabouts you're joining us from, just by putting a message in the chat there. Today's session is on manage scope creep and protect your profits. And we've got some lovely guests today, which I'm going to introduce you to in a minute. But first of all, if you can hear us, just let us know. Put a message in the chat box, let us know whereabouts you're joining us from. So good morning to you, Sam. Hello, Stephen, joining us from the East Midlands. Hello to you. Hi, Christopher, joining us from London. Hope the weather's nice down in London. It's a bit gloomy up here in the north at the moment. Suzanne's joining us from Norwich. Hello to you. Ollie's in Bristol. Good to see you, Ollie. Cameron's in London. I've got someone from South Africa as well. I'm sure the weather's a lot nicer there than it is over here. Melanie, you can hear me loud and clear. That's good. From Cornwall, hello to you. Lovely. Well, I think we'll get started. I think it's clear that everyone can hear me, which is good. So today's session is on managed scope creep and protecting your profits. So this is a topic that we actually don't speak too much about in Ignition, and we should do because it's really important, and it can have a big impact on businesses, and we'll see this from the discussion as we go along. So yeah, that's the topic of today. I will just click through. Little introduction from me. So my name's Jack. I'm Key Accounts Team Manager here at Ignition. I have been at Ignition for 7 years now. And my job basically is to work with accountants and bookkeepers who use Ignition in their day-to-day practice, just to help them get the most from their platform, reduce their debtors, improve their client onboarding, and that sort of stuff. So enough about me. Just a bit of housekeeping for today's session. So we are recording the session today, and we will send a copy of the recording to everybody that has registered. So on the right of your screen is the live chat and the Q&A. So if you have any comments or you want to share any feedback or anything like that, please post it in the live chat, and we'll pick that up as we go along, maybe get a discussion going on. But if you have got a question, either about Ignition or any of our guests today, please make sure you use the Q&A function, just so we can keep track of that. We are looking at questions on the other screen. And even though I work in tech, I am a bit of a technophobe, so I need to see those questions in the Q&A, just so I can keep track of those. So I really appreciate following those rules there. Now, Ignition, this webinar today is brought to you by Ignition, which, for those of you that don't know, is the world's first client engagement and payment collection platform for accountants and bookkeepers and professional services businesses. We've been around for, I'd say, maybe 12 or so years now, maybe a bit longer than that. We operate globally, so we're present in the UK. We also operate in the Americas, Australia, and regions like that. And we have around 8,000 businesses globally using us on a day-to-day basis. So there is a prompt on your screen now, just to get some information about what you know about Ignition. Maybe you're considering it. Maybe you've seen a little bit about us and you've decided to attend one of our webinars, learn a bit more. Maybe you haven't heard of us at all. So it's nice to see you come along for the first time, or maybe you're already using Ignition, which obviously we're really grateful for, and we hope it's working really well for you. So we've just got that prompt on the screen for now. If you don't know anything about Ignition, we will be looking at it a bit later on, later in the the webinar, but specifically how you can use Ignition in your business to help prevent and manage scope creep. So I'll start by introducing our lovely guests today. So we've got Antonia Bayriska, Practice Manager at Ask the Boss, and Liz Noble, Managing Director at Providence Financial Limited. So I'm going to hand over to you first, Antonia. Welcome to you. And would you like to give us a bit of background about yourself and introduce yourself?
Yes, absolutely. Good morning, everyone from London. I have no idea what the weather is like outside, but I think it's a little bit cloudy today. I am here in our office building in West London, Notting Hill, and I'm really glad to be joining you all today. So my name is Antonia. I am a practice manager at Ask the Boss. We are a small boutique accountancy firm, and we've been going on for 22 years this year, actually next month. So I joined the company 11 years ago, initially as an office manager. So I got to learn a lot over my time about practice management, about different technologies, about different processes and procedures, about HMRC. But my background is not really in accounting. I'm not a professional or qualified accountant at all. And this is probably what has given me a different side and a different look on the scope of working with clients in the accountancy space, and also working with my amazing team, which most of us have been working together for over 7 years with each other. So it's been great to learn and to get to know so many people in the industry, including you, Jack. You've been absolutely amazing since the day we started using Practice Ignition back in 2018, I believe that was. So I'm here to share my knowledge and experience and mistakes, and hopefully I will be able to help other people with that as well. So over to you, Liz.
Thank you, Anton. Yeah. Hi, I'm Liz Noble. I'm a technical director at Providence Financial Limited. We're a firm of chartered accountants based not too far away from West London, actually. We're just down the M3, just by the M25 in Egham, Surrey. And we also have an office in India. So we're a team of 22. We work primarily with property investors from overseas, investing in UK-sited property, and with football clubs, alongside the normal general practice. So we came to Ignition after a quite exciting but painful month. We took on 80 clients in 1 month, and onboarding them when we were trying to do engagement letters in Word was an absolute nightmare. So we needed a solution, and Practice Ignition was recommended to us, and we haven't looked back since. So
Lovely.
Likewise, I'm looking to share my experience with you as well.
Oh, lovely. That's very kind of you. Thank you both, and for your kind remarks on Ignition as well. So let's kick off then. So when we were actually planning this webinar and sending out the invitations, we thought that it would be good for us to actually define what scope creep is. And we weren't 100% sure whether everyone would actually know what it is. So what I thought we could do is, first of all, start defining what scope creep is, or what our interpretations of scope creep are. So I will go to you first, Liz.
Sorry, I'd muted myself. So scope creep, in my view, is where you're doing things that you haven't actually agreed with the client ahead of doing them. So it comes out of a conversation. You think, oh, yes, I'll just do that, and I'll just do, when it's not in your original engagement letter. So that's my definition of scope creep. I'll just do.
Lovely. And how about you, Antonia? What do you define as scope creep?
Well, to give you a live example, it would be probably where you speak to a new potential client and you understand their needs to the best of your knowledge. And then it turns out that actually the needs of their business is far beyond what was expected or discussed. So this is where additional service needs to be considered, or your team may feel a bit under pressure, where there's little calls here and there, and you haven't even planned for that extra work or time or capacity that you need to spend on that work. And it can creep in into all of your services if you don't know or consider it upfront. So it's something that every practice or every service provider needs to be aware of and think about a lot, because it can really affect your team. It can affect your profitability, your time, and your mind as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you did actually say the word creep. It is something that's creeping into the business. Yeah, and inevitably will erode profits and things like that. But we'll get on to the risks a bit later. So just looking at those examples of scope creep, what would you say, and I'll come to you first, Liz, what would you say are some of the most common forms of scope creep, or even some of the most common services that you see scope creep on or have seen in the past?
So, yeah, I think when you're having a conversation with a client and an issue comes up and you think, yes, we can service that, we can help with that, we've got a solution for that, and you're so keen to help the client and get them to where they want to be to solve the problem that you forget that we need to be charging for our time, and our time is valuable. And I think that's certainly in our practice where we've seen scope creep happen. So yeah, it's having that conversation, being so eager to help and so wanting to help, which is at the end of the day what we do as accountants. We're there to help, we're there to advise, but we forget about, at the end of the day, it's our time and our and our effort and our expertise that we're selling, and we should be rewarded for that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, like you said, accountants can be such nice people and want to help people out, but they're not charities. They need to think about their own business and that they've got staff to pay and things like that. How about you, Antonia? What have you observed in your time in practice?
So if you ask different team members from my team what is the service that can involve a lot of scope creep, probably everyone will say the things that they work on. So if you ask someone doing bookkeeping a lot, they will say, actually, bookkeeping, because I get calls, I need to chase clients for information all the time. It adds on to my time, to my capacity as well. But essentially, I think it would be probably services that you underestimate. So to give you an example, it could be like, for example, self-assessment tax returns. And you may sign up a new client who's been referred to you by someone else, and you have a chat with them and say, my tax return is really straightforward. I can send you all the information. But then you actually realize, oh, I have to go years back to actually find out what was the historical changes in that person's pension contributions. And you need to have like really deep analysis of that to be able to report correctly on the tax return. And this can really, really add time and money onto your time. And especially when you're trying to be proactive and to be transparent and offer a fixed fee service, actually, when you see that information come through, you have to be thinking, oh, actually, this is something that's really going to affect my time and the value I'm going to bring to that client, because I'm going to help him sort out this historical issue. But you need to tell that client upfront and make it clear so that they understand what the issue is. And you need to plan, do I need to charge the client more? And if so, let them know as soon as you can.
Yeah, I think you highlighted the point there about being upfront with the client and setting the expectations at the beginning. But no, that's brilliant. Assuming you haven't done that, so you've had all of these situations where you've had client scope creep. Have you ever had to have an awkward conversation with a client about work that's not been paid for, or the job hasn't been specified at the beginning? And how did you handle that conversation? So first of all, you, Antonia.
So in recent days, I would probably say this is well less common in comparison to back in the day. And I think the reason being is that we used to charge a lot hourly. So all of our services used to be billed once a month at the end of the month based on the timesheets we were entering. And that used to cause us a lot of forwards and backwards conversations with clients to explain what we did, how we did it, etc. Then as we went on to progress and try and create our services in such a way that we can actually create packages on a fixed fee, and the description of the packages is very specific. This has really helped us, number one, set up fixed fees, and number two, review those fixed fees in a year's time, or in some cases in 3 months' time, if you see the client is a startup and they're growing very quickly. But on the other hand, I think it's really important from the get-go when you speak to the client to try and list as much information on your contract as possible. And this is not just to go and say, I offer services A, B, C, and this is how much I'm going to charge. You actually need to have a very deep conversation with the client and ask them specific questions about their business. And then when you actually list their answers on the proposal, the client knows that you get them and you understand them and you care about their business. So that's why even though it's a fixed fee service with the box standard description, that extra kind of level of care and description, and it kind of gives you a bit more transparency with the client. And then later on, when you review your services, you can say to the client, this is what we discussed last time, but actually over the time, we stopped doing this and we instead started doing that. So you can adjust your prices up and down as needed, because every business is different. And just that extra client care is something that can really keep your clients with you for a longer period of time. And they will appreciate it. They will value your service more. Sorry about the long answer.
You're all right. No, so absolutely. And I like the word you used there, being transparent at the outset. Sorry, Liz, I interrupted you there.
No, you didn't interrupt me at all. So in terms of sort of how do we address the scope creep and having those difficult conversations, like Antonio, we also work on a fixed fee basis, and that avoids a lot of the problems historically with time. You know, it's our risk how long a job takes, not the client's. So by reassuring them that we will get the job done for a fixed fee, if we get it wrong, that's down to us, sort of thing. So we want to avoid that. And so what we do is we have the conversations with the client. As if their business is growing, for example, we say, congratulations, your business is growing. That's brilliant. We do need to charge you a bit more, but we can help you in so many other ways. And we explain the value of what we provide to our clients and what that means to them, so that they appreciate what we're doing, and they see the value in that. The key, as Antonia said, is also to make sure that your descriptions on your proposals are cast, that you've captured everything that you're going to do within that. And that is key, because then you can say to the client, this is what we agreed, this is what we've done, it saved you X. If we do need to have that discussion, but ideally we've set our systems up within the practice that if something does come along that is outside scope, it gets flagged sooner rather than later. We try not to leave it until the end. We try and address it as we hit that potential scope creep. So by having those definitions in the proposals, our team also know what our client is due to be paying for, or what they are paying for. So they are more alert to, hold on, this is just going outside the scope of our engagement. I need to flag it to a manager, or I need to escalate this, and a discussion needs to be had. So we're catching scope creep a bit earlier than we were.
Yeah, and I really like that outlook that you have around turning the client's growth and scope creep into an opportunity that can benefit both parties. That was really nice. Now, a few years back, so this isn't the first time we have spoken about scope creep at Ignition. A few years back, we launched a nationwide survey where we polled around 470 accountants and bookkeepers about how scope creep is affecting their businesses. And a lot of what was brought up in that was all the awkward conversations, and the campaign was actually called Own the Awkward. And a lot of what was brought up there was fear. And the way I look at this is, and I could be wrong here, but we as Brits, we tend to be quite hesitant about talking about money and asking for money, and there's a taboo around money in the UK. People don't discuss salaries and things, and there's a bit of, would you say, and I'll go to you first, Liz, would you say there's a psychology of fear in the UK around addressing this scope creep because it pertains to money, and is that why businesses are leaving so much money on the table?
Yes, I think as a country, we are fearful of raising financial matters because it is taboo to a certain extent. We work with a lot of clients overseas, and the attitude towards fees is different there. So we've taken a more bullish approach now, and I'm not afraid to say that, we're quoting a price. It's fair. We have staff, we have overheads. We're not a charity. We are a business, and we are good at what we do, and therefore that comes at a price. And in actual fact, earlier this week, I sacked a client that didn't appreciate that. And I said to him, I don't want to work with you because you don't appreciate what I can bring to you, and I'd rather work with people that do. So we parted on good ways. He appreciated, once I'd explained it to him, what the situation was, he apologised, and we are moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Oh, sorry, carry on, Liz. I was interjecting there.
No, go on.
I was going to say I love that bullish approach and about being upfront, because I think us as Brits, we tend to beat around the bush and we don't want to face things head on. And I think just getting out in the open it just makes sense, doesn't it? And that's what you were saying earlier, Antonia, being transparent from the beginning. Yeah, how about you, Antonia? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, back in the day, I used to work as a graphic designer, as a freelancer for a while, and I was in that pot as well. I really experienced it firsthand when I was doing work for clients, and at certain points I was so much afraid of telling them how much I need to charge for the extra time that I was doing the work, and it would take me 5 times more to do it, and then I wouldn't really be happy with the outcome for myself, because I would be spending so much time and effort to deliver the service that I wanted to deliver and the quality. And then when you get paid a lower amount for your efforts, it's really disheartening as well. So when I joined this industry, the accountancy industry, I was really keen to learn more about getting people paid on time. And it's really important. Number one, you as an accountant are also a business. So you need to cover your costs. You need to pay your staff salaries. You need to cover your rent. But on the same level, I think for accountants, it's really important to take that responsibility of educating their own clients of the importance of cash flow and charging and billing for their services or products upfront and as soon as they can, because this is what really moves the clocks, isn't it? It's really what affects businesses. And as an actual fact, there is currently a UK campaign, the Fair Payment Code, where businesses sign up for it with the promise to pay their suppliers within 60 days. I think 60 days is still a ridiculous amount of time. It should be way earlier than that. And in fact, with the technologies we have these days, if you're able to set up direct debits, number one, it makes your cash flow much better. And number two, it really reduces your admin time and chasing payments. And as an accountant, for example, if you're signing up a new client and from the beginning, you say to the client, all our invoices are paid by direct debit. They know what the expectation is, and when they sign that contract, they know that they will set up a direct debit for your fees. It's a bit like paying for your mobile phone bill, isn't it? They deliver a service to you, and at the same time you pay monthly, and if you don't pay, your service gets cut off. It's a bit different with accountancy services. Obviously, you have to be a bit flexible when a client is struggling, they can't afford your fees. And I'm going to come to the fact that when you offer a service, it's never as simple as 1, 2, 3. You have to consider and be open to give options to your clients. So to give you an idea, it could be something like the client comes to you, but they want your service and they need your service quite urgently, but they can't afford to pay it. So if you can, you may decide to actually provide the service and charge them upfront 50%, or you can charge the whole service at the end of the service, maybe in a month or in 2 months' time. But giving options to people always makes the experience a bit more positive and a bit more human as well. So I always try to do that with our clients as well.
And it's a bit more bespoke, isn't it? Because within the ignition proposals, you can add services that are optional. So clients can tailor their own package to a certain extent. You can have standard packages, but you can add in extras that they can take or leave. And when you're setting up the proposal, it's almost a one touch. You set up the proposal, you set the invoicing to start on a certain date. You can have the direct debit set up to collect automatically. So you don't have to do that much after that initial proposal. Once the client has accepted it, it's automated. It takes away a lot of that stress and admin time, so you've got time to concentrate on delivering exceptional service to your client.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's that's what we hear from a lot of our customers, actually. And we'll be looking a bit later on in the session about how you can use things like additional add-ons to protect scope creep. So just want to focus on some of the problems caused by scope creep now. So I think we've got a poll that's going to launch on the screen in a second. But while that poll's going up, I just wanted to understand from both of you, and I'll start with you, Antonia. If we haven't got these things in place, like clearly defined scope, engagement letter, payment details up front, setting expectations, what are some of the risks to a business if scope creep is not managed or even prevented properly?
Well, number one, it will add a lot of admin work for you. So your time will be dedicated to trying to figure things out. And actually, one thing I wanted to add earlier to Liz's comment is that when you're setting up services, a lot of accountants, I presume, they think about it as something that's really difficult. And because they haven't done it before, they might find it a bit hard to approach as a task. So the good thing is that the information you need is already there. You've been either working with clients for years, and you know your clients, you know the kinds of clients you want to work with. So think about historically what services you provided for your clients, how much you charged them. Was there times when you undercharged, and what are the things that you need to consider as an additional service to that package of services? So start little, and if you get stuck somewhere, there's always other people in the industry. Our industry is full of friends, and we're like a family. People like to talk to people and share experience and knowledge. So try and create that. Back to your question, Jack. I think going back to the days when I was doing, like Liz said, word contracts and manually updating them and changing them. It's not just creating a contract once and you forget about it. It's also about the ongoing issues that this can cause you. So, for example, your team, if you don't talk to your team regularly, if you don't review their workload regularly, this can cause a real struggle within your team. And they're more likely to become overwhelmed with work. That's one of the things as well. And what you want to do is you don't want to just keep the ball rolling over years. You want to learn from the experience and you want to improve on the experience. So constantly thinking, how can I make my client's life easier? How can I provide them a better client experience? Not just to hear from them once a year when they need their accounts filed. How can I make my client decide to pick up the phone and talk to me, just to share, even their everyday things with me? I recently spoke to someone from the industry, and I said, I think that, accountants are like the GPs for their customers. The customer should feel comfortable to come and talk to you about anything. Whatever it might be embarrassing, but accountants are very trusted people. And from that perspective, if you try and work on your client relationship and build your business model in such a way, that would be amazing. And regular reviews, not just for client work, but also for your services. Services do need to adapt with technology, especially nowadays. AI is coming on all platforms. So the more you speed up your work, the more you need to consider how can you evolve your services with the technology as well to keep on top and and swim with the sharks in the pond.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks for that, Antonia. And just while that poll's launching, I'm going to get your opinion on this in a minute, Liz. But we've come up with 46% of people on our poll just now said that financial loss or reduced profitability were affected, have been affected, are the effects of scope creep in their business. And this is changing, by the way. So as I'm reading these polls out, the numbers are changing. But 40% have noticed, like you were saying, Antonia, the increased workload or workflow issues. Liz, do those results surprise you, or what's your interpretation of those?
No, I mean we are as an industry, we're servicing multiple clients. We have to plan our workload, and if one client's taking more time than we're expecting, that causes an impact on our other clients. So scope creep not only affects our profitability, it affects our ability to service those clients, the other clients effectively. So if we can manage the scope creep and reduce it, our plans do become the reality. The workflow that we're expecting to happen happens as we want it, and everyone's happy. I think if we have the impact on scope creep affecting the work plan, that affects our team members as well, because then we have to ask them either to work for extra hours, or we have to have more resource in to be able to service those clients, prepare those accounts, do the bookkeeping, whatever it is that whatever service it is we're providing for those clients. And we spend a lot of time at work. We need to ensure we've got a work-life balance, and that our team members are taking time away and do get downtime and aren't stressed. And that impact, the scope creep, not only impacts our bottom line, but it affects team members' mental health. For example, if they're stressed, they're not going to be able to enjoy what they do. We don't want that sort of culture in our workplaces. We try and make sure that work is a nice place to be. It's a good place to be, that we look after each other. And if we're imposing pressures on staff that are going to affect their mental health, for example, then that's not a good position to be in. So if we can reduce the scope creep, we can take that pressure away, or alleviate it, or have plans to work with it. But yeah, we need to be very mindful of mental health, because it is more prevalent or more talked about in the workplace at the moment, and we have a responsibility as business owners to look after our team members' welfare.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
if I can just add to that, there are two red flags that people should be very careful and aware of. Number one, if you need to ask a team member, or if you see a team member working extra hours, that's definitely a red flag. Something's definitely wrong there. So you need to check that. And number two, if you or any of your team are cringing for the idea of picking up the phone to a client, if someone's, oh, another call from this client, that's another red flag that you have to address as soon as possible, because it may roll on to be something much bigger.
Yeah, absolutely. And everything you both are saying has been reflected not only in our poll, but also in our State of Client Engagement report from a few years ago. So this report found that 43% of accountants and bookkeepers said they and their staff were working longer hours to manage increased workloads as a result of avoiding or delaying awkward client conversations. And I'm glad you brought up the mental health point, Liz, because that was actually a response in our poll. 33% of accountants and bookkeepers said that their and their team's mental health has been suffered as a result of avoiding or delaying awkward client conversations. So like you were saying, Antonia, I really don't want to pick up the phone to that client. No, that's absolutely essential that this scope creep is kept under wraps. I mean, I actually spoke to somebody who said that one of their team members resigned because they just couldn't deal with the stress of it. So, yeah, it's hugely important. I'm going to close that poll on the screen now. Let's just remove that. Lovely. So I feel like we could talk about this all day with the scope creep. We've spoken a bit about the setting the initial expectations from the start and being clear in your scope of work. So I was just interested to hear from you both. What does your client engagement process look like when you take on new clients? And is there anything in particular that you do in your engagement letters or in your service offerings that helps prevent scope creep? And I'll come to you first, Antonia.
Yeah, we over the years, we have always tried it and picked on things that have been really important for the onboarding of clients. And I think it's absolutely crucial that when you start with a fresh start with a new client and you give them that positive experience, it always adds extra to the remaining process of the remaining relationship with that client. So I would say for our industry, we have to do so many things to onboard a new client, but that doesn't necessarily mean the client needs to get involved. So even though my task list for onboarding is probably 20, 30 points long, I try to make sure that the client doesn't know about it. So the idea of onboarding has been really close to my heart because I think for me, client experience is obviously very important. And we want to make the whole process addressed to the client and make them feel valuable, first of all. So it always starts with the meeting. We want to hear from the client, and it's important to let the client speak. You don't need to talk a lot. You just need to ask the right questions that you need so that you can have an idea of what's needed for their services. So let the client speak, give them all of the attention you need. Even if the meeting needs to prolong from an hour to hour and a half, that is fine. I think it's going to really help long-term with the client relationship and trust. So as you go with the client, make notes and make sure that you understand exactly what they need. In some cases, you may come to a point when you actually realize this client is not the right fit for me, which is absolutely fine. I don't think all accountants need to think or feel the pressure of signing every client that comes through their door. Because in many cases, those clients are the ones that you may need to disengage very shortly afterwards. You just come to realize they're not the right fit for you, for your team, for your services. So be honest, be open from the get-go. Another thing we always try to do is when you get to speak to the client, you want to understand what their business does. And we as accountants, we have so many connections in the industry. We work with different businesses. So try and introduce people as well after your first meeting with the client. It always gives that extra kind of sense of, oh, my accountant actually has good connections. I can really use that for my business. So after the meeting, try and be proactive. Don't let the client wait for days, if not weeks, for an engagement letter. It's just not right. Making people wait or anticipate is always adding on extra burden on the process. So try and be proactive. Try and send them. Even if you have a follow-up question, send that as soon as you can. Don't let the whole idea and the whole knowledge run away from your mind. Try and deal with it there and then. I think it's a good idea to actually get your team involved in the process. They should also be able to sell the services that they're going to be doing. So I think I tested this a while ago where I created like a whole process Bible of onboarding a client, and I tested it over the summer with my team. So when I was on holiday, my team signed up a new client without needing me at all. So that was a proof. It worked, and it was fantastic. I was so happy. And then when you create the proposal for the client, like I said earlier, try and be as descriptive as possible with the client's needs for the services, but also their information of what their business does, what kind of levels of transactions they have, bank accounts, all sorts of information needs to go there. And once the client is happy and signed the proposal, all you need to do is set up your systems, the work, and make it as automated as you can, because that really helps. So if one platform, your proposal platform, can talk to your practice management platform, that's a plus. If your proposal platform can talk to your billing platform, so your bills get sent automatically every month, that's another plus. If you can collect your payments without thinking about it, that's a third plus. So this is pretty much the onboarding process. And obviously, it goes on to add with the additional services. It should be pretty similar. Maybe you don't need it so much in depth, but you do need to understand the additional service, whether this is something that you can add to your existing services, whether it's something that you need to do as a one-off, or maybe it's something that you can add to your retainer on a monthly basis. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, over to you, Liz.
I think what Antonia said was absolutely right. You have two ears and one mouth, and the conversation should reflect the fact that you've got two ears and one mouth. So you listen twice as much as you speak. Process is key. It's key to have written processes that everybody in the company knows about and can follow. And it's also really important that you capture that information at the outset so that everybody knows what's expected for this client. Everyone can get to understand the client. You know, if they're not going to be working with you directly, if the client is going to be working with another client manager, say, that they have a really good briefing. From the client perspective, it's really important that they know what the process is going to be. They know what the touch points are going to be. You know, this is going to happen, and then the next step is this, and then the next step is that. And in our experience, don't overwhelm clients at the outset by giving them too much information. They won't take it all in, and you end up having to repeat that further down the line. We used to send out a really long, 2-page long letter at the outset, and we found that clients just weren't paying attention, and we were having to repeat that knowledge gathering, if you like, or that knowledge assimilation for the client later in the process, if you like. And that's a duplication of effort. So what we've done is we've broken it out into bite-sized pieces. This is what happens now. Do this, and then when the next piece happens, this is what's happening next. And you look after the client. And those multiple touch points with the client also help to build the relationship and build that trust between you. So the more touch points you have in terms of physical interaction, or meetings or correspondence, and vary those, the better. But and as Antonia said, having the automation behind it gives you the time to do that. You're not spending time creating invoices, and you're not spending time chasing money. You've got time to actually look after the client and deliver the service.
Yeah, I love that analysis, Liz. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say I like Liz's analysis of giving the client enough information at the beginning and being clear, but not too much that you're overwhelming them, I think makes a lot of sense. Sorry, Antonia, just a quick note from you.
Yeah, that was something I wanted to comment on as well. When you send a contract, it doesn't really need to be like a long 30-page PDF that people don't want to read as soon as they see it. I think it's really important to grab the client's attention first with the things that are the most important for them to read, to understand, and to make it to kind of attract their curiosity in a way. So they can see, oh, that accountant, they really listened to what I said to them. And when they see that part of the contract, then the associated terms and conditions, as long as you make them understandable for them, that adds a little bit extra to the signing up process. If you try and provide them with accounting jargon that they're never going to understand, it really kind of doesn't look great in their eyes, and it doesn't really add to the experience. So something to consider.
Great, thank you. Well, I think we could probably talk about scope creep for a lot longer, but I think what we're going to do now is tie a lot of that together and then look at how you can use Ignition to reduce scope creep in the business. So I am going to share my screen. Hopefully you can see my Ignition proposal on there. So this is an example of a proposal that I've sent from Ignition. And as you can see, this will give the client a clear breakdown of exactly what's included in the piece of work. So what you're seeing on the screen here are Ignition's example service descriptions, but you can use our in-app AI generator to craft a description for you. So a few things I've put in here. For example, bookkeeping, I've given them a ceiling, so a limit to the scope of that piece of work. For payroll, I've declared that that's without auto-enrollment, and that's also got a limit on there as well. And I've also got, which we encourage a lot of businesses to do, is to specify the accounting year that you are doing the work for. And then that way, if you need to quote for additional catch-up, you can do that for Ignition as well, and do it separately. What I've also got here, which you can't see on the screen, is against each of these services, I've got a detailed set of terms and conditions, which will not only specify the work that I am doing for the client, it will also specify what I'm not doing for the client or what's not included in that scope of work. Now, like Liz was mentioning earlier, you can use Ignition to provide optional services to the client, and this will achieve two things. The first thing it will achieve is it will be an easy way of extracting additional revenue from your client and providing additional value without the hard sell. So the client can just come through here, review the services that they want to opt into, and then just tick to add them to their proposal. The other thing that this will do is this will also demonstrate to the client that these are services that are not included in that scope of work. So you're making clear to the client that these are additional services and these are chargeable. So if you have services that you're providing to the client and you anticipate that they may ask for other things, you can have those as an add-on. Then the client will go through and they'll have their pricing schedule. So it's going to tell them exactly what they're going to be billed and when they're going to be billed, with a breakdown of the services and the pricing if you want to. What they can also do here is they can enter in their payment information, and specifically we're making this a requirement of signing up to our services. So we can do as much as we can to reduce scope creep, but if we haven't got the payment details promised when they sign up, then we're very much at the mercy of the client paying us for the work we're doing. So it's really important that we collect those payment details up front. And what this will do is this will set the client up with a direct debit, and Ignition will collect the payment according to the schedule. So All the terms and conditions are generated in a contract, which is sent to the client, and they can just enter their signature in there and sign their terms and conditions. So the proposal is now accepted. That will send a contract to the client, and it will also notify you that that client has now become active, and it will set the direct debit up. So let's take a look at the back end of Ignition. So if we just refresh this page a minute. So our client's become active now. And so they've turned green. And what Ignition's done is it's set up a payment schedule for the client. So I can see here from the 1st of next month, I'm billing the client $570 per month for all these services. And I've got payment arranged on that already. What we'll also see is a list of all the services that we're providing this client, what you're charging for those services, how those clients are paying for those services, and also when those services are up for renewal. And Antonio and Liz mentioned earlier about reviewing your clients' fees, which you can do through Ignition on an annual basis if you want to, or maybe even more often than that, and apply inflationary fee increases and things like that. So you can essentially use Ignition as your source of truth for the scope of work that you're carrying out for the client. Now, let's say that the number of employees in their business increases, and therefore the amount of workload increases, and you need to reflect that in the billing. So at the moment, I'm charging the client for payroll up to 5 employees, but let's say they've taken on a couple more. What I can do is I can come in here and I can edit that service. And because I've itemized my service according to the number of employees, I can switch that out for the next band. So I'm going to put them up to 10 employees, and that will be reflected in the price. What I can also do is override that price or just edit the base price of that service. Now, what this will allow you to do as well is email the client. So first of all, I just want to check that my billing is aligned. So I'm going to carry on billing this on the 1st of the month. And that's just going to update the schedule indefinitely. So I'm going to email the client. I've just crafted an email here, which I'm going to send to them. And that's going to inform them that the scope of the work has now changed, and we've reflected that in their monthly direct debit. So when I click next, it'll ask me to leave an internal note. So I'll just say client has taken on more employees. Moving to the next band. Oops. And then I'm going to save that. And then what we'll see is that will be reflected in the billing schedule. So the payroll service has now changed from 35 to 50. And the total of that is now 588. So when your clients sign their proposal and they've put the payment information, you've then got the flexibility to change their billing as required. Now, let's say that the client has approached you and said, there were VAT returns as an option on that proposal. I didn't pick it at the beginning, but actually I do want you to do my VAT returns. What do we do now? So what you can do is you can send the client an additional proposal after the one that's already been accepted. We recommend this for services, particularly if they're ongoing services, they're quite high value, or they've got a set of terms attached to them. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to build a quick proposal. And I'm just going to call it the VAT return. And I can actually put in the reporting period here if I want to. Now I'm billing my client on the 1st of the month, so I'm going to start the billing on the 1st of the month there. And I'm going to add my VAT return service in. So let's call this VAT returns. And I'm going to bill that on a recurring basis. I can bill that quarterly, I can bill that monthly. It's up to me what I do there. So I've got my service in here. It's going to be billed every month from next month, which is their next billing day. And what I can then do is just put in an intro message here. So on my introduction, I'm just going to put a quick intro message to let the client know that I'm sending them a proposal for the new VAT return service, and I require that they check out with their payment information and approve the terms for that service. So at this point, I could send the proposal off to the client, but what I might do is just, for the purposes of the demo, just accept this internally on the client's behalf. So the client's now signed their additional proposal, and what it's done is it's added the VAT returns to their schedule. So it's increased their direct debit for them, and that's now inclusive of the VAT returns. So that's one way you can do it. And I think when we were talking before the webinar, Liz, that's what you mentioned you do when you require additional pieces of work. You always send an additional proposal and get the client to sign off on that. But we do speak to customers where it may be the case that they want to just take a charge from the client. It could be that the work is low value and we just want to take a charge for it. It could be that the work's already been done and we just want to add a bill on to the client. So for lightweight things like that, you're able to use Ignition's instant bill feature. So I'm going to go to new instant bill. So let's say a client has requested a mortgage reference. I'm just going to put in my mortgage reference service there. Now, I don't feel this is necessary to get a signature for this. I'm just going to get the client to, I'm just going to put the bill through for the client. I can choose here when I want to bill it. So this, I've already done the work, let's say, or I'm going to do it over the next couple of weeks. I'm going to bill it as a one-off. Now I can choose to take that payment today if I want to collect the payment now, or if I want to be more courteous to the client and give them some notice of this payment, I could schedule it for a week's time. So we'll do it today. I've got the client's payment method on there, and with their permission, I'm just going to check out in here, and then I'm going to click next. Again, I've got the opportunity to email the client. So I can put something in here like, as per our phone call, we'll carry out the mortgage reference for you. The invoice will follow. And again, for my audit trail purposes, I'm just going to put client has requested mortgage reference over the phone. And that will be there for my logs. So I'm going to bill the client. And then what you'll see is it's added the service onto my schedule. It's a one-off for £100 and the billing's completed because I did it up front. So what it's done is it's deployed an invoice for the mortgage reference. It's sent that into Xero or QuickBooks and the payment on there has already been triggered. So again, I could just use this just to keep on top of the scope of work. So those are some of the ways that you can use Ignition to help manage your scope creep. The other way, which we won't get into today, is by doing your fee reviews. So you can use Ignition to implement, for example, inflationary increases to keep on top of inflation. You can look at each client's service offering individually. You can renew their proposal with a fee increase. You can offer additional services on there like the add-ons. Or you can even take services off if you need to. Ignition will actually remind you when you need to do your fee increases as well, just so you keep on top of it. So let's go back to the slides. So I think that is it for today. So it's been really nice to speak to both Antonia and Liz about scope creep, and hopefully we found the insights really useful. I certainly have. Before we get a closing word from Liz and Antonia, I just wanted to remind you of our upcoming webinar, which is taking place on Wednesday, the 19th of November. And this is our accounting and tax pricing benchmark reveal. So what we've done here is similar to the state of client engagement report we were talking about earlier, is we've surveyed a range of accountants and bookkeepers on pricing. And we will be hosting a webinar revealing the results of that report on Wednesday the 19th, so in a couple of weeks. So if you are interested in that, just simply click that prompt on your screen there, and that should register you automatically for that webinar. So we're really excited to put that on. We're really keen to see you attend that. So before we go, Liz, Antonia, I wondered if you had any last minute words or top tips that you wanted to give our audience on scope creep. Just to summarise.
Yeah, I think the thing is be aware of it, have the systems in place to recognise it, keep your teams informed as to what they need to do when they identify it. So have proper processes, written, agreed processes that everyone signs up to, so that you can nip it in the bud as quickly as possible. And don't be afraid to have those conversations. The worst that the client is going to say is no. But if you don't have that conversation, you'll never get over it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with Liz. I think going straight in and having proper, honest conversations with clients is very important. Also, with the scope creep, I don't think we covered the area of the very regular HMRC legislation changes, and this is something that can really bring in extra work for your team and your services and your service offering to clients. So try and be upfront of things, try and communicate well with clients from the start. And I think good communication is the key to make sure that you can avoid a lot of hassles later on down the line.
Lovely, that's perfect. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for the closing words. And thank you to all our attendees who attended today's session. So we really hope you enjoyed the session. As I said, watch out for that pricing benchmark webinar. Hope you've managed to register for that. And thank you, Liz and Antonia, for being such lovely guests. It was really nice to interview you on today's webinar. And on behalf of the panel here, thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you on our webinars in the future.
I really look forward to the next one. So count me in.
Likewise.
Thank you, guys.
Lovely. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye. Bye.